Arizona's Republican Governor Doug Ducey, by the way, expected to sign that bill into law. It is one of many issues Republican Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs joins us now to discuss. Representative Biggs, always good to see you. How are you, my friend?
Great, Terrence. Good to be with you.
Let's start with that abortion ban there in your state. It is a preemptive move. Your thoughts, gut feeling?
I think it's a good bill. I think it's long been necessary. I support the bill, support the effort. I do believe Governor Ducey is going to sign it, and I also believe that the Supreme Court's going to uphold it. So I think it's where we need to be, and it's where we need to be going.
Arizona, like many other states, is one of those states trying to get ahead of the ball when it comes to the Roe v. Wade decision from the U.S. Supreme Court. Why do you think it's so important to try to get ahead of the ball and pass some of this legislation now as opposed to after the ruling?
Well, I think a lot of people are beginning to suspect that this Supreme Court might actually overturn Roe, which it was based on some of the most specious legal reasoning I've ever seen. But the reality is they anticipate that this will go back status quo ante, which meant that the states kind of regulated this issue. And that's why they're trying to jump ahead of this. They're trying to make sure that they have their laws, their state laws, kind of like having your ducks in a row now. So should that happen, they're ready to immediately implement their own policies with regard to abortion.
Now, there is about 100-year-old statute on the books there in Arizona, as I understand it, that would actually outright ban abortion if Roe v. Wade were ever to be overturned. Do you think that's going to be implemented should Roe v. Wade be overturned? And would that pretty much overrule this latest legislation that's just passed?
I think you're going to have a bit of a contest there. That law's been on the books. It hasn't been enforced for many years. My understanding is even before Roe v. Wade. So you're going to have to, the legislature is going to have to decide what they want to do. They may go ahead and repeal that. They may reinstitute it. But it's hard to say right now. They're trying to get ahead of the game, but they're not that far ahead of the game, Terrence. So we'll see how that goes.
All right. It was a nuanced question, I get, but I was just curious about your perspective on that. Let's switch gears a bit and talk about your colleague, Marjorie Taylor Greene. You probably heard the story in the intro to you, in which there's this group of voters basically trying to stop her from being able to run for re-election, citing that she's an insurrectionist. I would imagine that this is the kind of thing, I see you kind of smiling, almost a chuckle, so I'll just leave it there. Go ahead, please. That's my softball pitch to you.
Hey, that's almost impossible. I don't want to whiff on this one, Terrence, but I mean, the reality is that issue's already been litigated, and this group has lost that. This group is from out of state, first of all, and I think that we've got two avenues to look at. First of all, is the term insurrectionist. What does that really mean? And by no stretch of the imagination does Marjorie Taylor Greene or anybody in Congress fall into the 14th Amendment definition of insurrectionist. So that's one. The second thing is it's going to be up to the Georgia voters to determine whether they think Marjorie Taylor Greene is worthy of continuing to serve them in Congress. And so step back. You want to talk about voter suppression. This is the ultimate voter suppression because you're not going to allow them to have the candidate that they most likely will prefer on the ballot. And that's why this is just a little bit more of the left insanity that we see going on, Terrence. And it does crack me up because they want to take some constitutional provision that has rarely been used, and it hasn't been used in, speaking of 100 years, in over 100 years, to try to go after Marjorie Taylor Greene for something she had no part in.
Before I let you go, I want to talk a little bit about the FBI, specifically a new investigation about the Federal Bureau of Investigation that says, I'm just going to read a little part of this here from my phone. It says that there was a secret Federal Bureau of Investigation audit detailing rampant violations of internal policies governing FBI investigations concerning politicians, candidates, religious groups, news media, and others. An audit that found rampant violations. That alone raises many questions. How much support or how much confidence do you have in the Federal Bureau of Investigation right now? We'll start there.
Well, first of all, their leadership has been terrible, and I don't have any confidence in the leadership. And I think you've got pockets of within the FBI that are not worthy of trust as well. But I also believe that there are a lot of good people there. So they've got to clean up their act, and their act right now is not playing well. in the country, and it's not playing well for protecting our rights. And this internal audit demonstrated that very clearly.
As the name of the Bureau implies, it is the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which implies an investigatory mission. But it seems that recently, or at least in the recent years, that investigation has shifted more to policy and politics.
Yeah, Terrence, you're exactly right. The FBI has been weaponized. They're going after, so in this instance, they went after something like 350 politicians, and politicians were the most targeted. Why is that, one wonders? And they went after them and had multitudes of violations in those investigations. They've been weaponized to go after political enemies. And that's, by the way, what the left used to say happened under J. Edgar Hoover, and it's happened under this FBI, and it's happened under, I think, at least 3 administrations, the Obama, Trump, and now Biden administration. And that's because they've gotten away from the supervision and oversight of Congress. And now they're looking after Congress and political enemies. And that is a huge problem in a constitutional republic.
So what specifically needs to happen then to retool the FBI and get it back to its initial mission?
There needs to be more transparency. We need to get more cooperation from the FBI. We need to get, in my opinion, we need a new director, and and also a massive change in the subordinates right at the highest levels. And then you need to change the culture. That culture has got to change, because what's happening is this type of behavior. And this isn't alone. I mean, we didn't even get in the Hunter Biden laptop and what the FBI's role in suppressing that is. So you have a whole lot of things going on with that agency. And unless you get transparency and rebuild the culture there, I think it's going to persist. And that is not a police state we want to live in, Terrence.
Andy, I know you've got a lot going on. Representative Biggs, I apologize. I feel like we're so friendly I can call you Andy. Representative Biggs, I apologize. Before I let you go, though, let's talk a bit about the Scotus confirmation hearings. Like most Americans, I'm sure you have been watching it. What are your thoughts about the nominee, Ketanji Brown Jackson, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson?
I think, I've watched a lot of these over the years, and I thought Justice Sotomayor and Justice Kagan's would be the most radical appointees. Those are just justices who believe that the international law trumps the Constitution. That's how radical they are. But I will tell you, Judge Ketanji Brown, she is the most radical leftist nominee ever brought before the U.S. Senate for confirmation. And I will just tell you, Terrence, there are ways that the Republicans can, if they can't stop it completely, they can slow it down. And the first thing is, no Republican on that committee, Judiciary Committee, should vote to move her forward. And if they don't, then under the rules right now of that committee, her name would not be brought forward to the floor for confirmation vote. They can stop it. They should stop it. I'm hoping that they do, because she is really demonstrated in not in anything other than her judicial rulings and in her stated belief system. Those two things there disqualify her from sitting on the United States Supreme Court.
Senator McConnell has already said that he is a no vote for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. Do you think that sets the precedent? Does that set the stage for other Republicans to get on board and say no?
I think it's going to be hard for Republicans to vote yes after some of her testimony and the things that have been brought forward. I hope that the committee universally says no. When I say that, I mean the Republican side, because then that stops it. But if not, then I hope that there's no Republican that advances her nomination.
Representative Biggs, as always, it is good to talk to you. We've run out of time, and I still have many more questions, so we'll have to do this again very soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Terrence. Good to see you.
Always good to see you. Take care. Have a great weekend.